we're on the road to WrestleMania. It's officially March. We're like, what, less than 30 days away from WrestleMania. It is
Yeah,
hard to
WrestleMania is
believe
a
because
month away.
it seemed like we were 52 days away just yesterday, and now we're down to like 30. It seemed like at Royal Rumble, we were like 70 days away. So just that whole month of February, just I don't know where it went.
It flew, yeah.
But this whole thing with The Rock and Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns and the tag team match. I like a slow build for sure, but I think they're really just wasting a lot of our time with this upcoming Friday when Cody makes the decision. The match is made. The decision's been made. Like, this is one of those ones that I get it. Sometimes you want to maybe speculate that something else could possibly happen, but nothing else is happening here. We knew we were getting this tag team match as soon as they presented it in the WrestleMania commercial. And listen, I understand they wanted to put out that WrestleMania commercial and they wanted to put it out around the Super Bowl weekend. I get that. They could have done it in a way that didn't necessarily literally more than tip their hand, but essentially spoil that we were getting this tag team match. But the fact that The Rock laid it out on SmackDown, literally verbatim, like what's going to happen, who's going to face who, what the rules are. If Rock and Roman win, it's bloodline rules. If Rock and Roman lose, they'll be banned from ringside. This whole thing. So there's really no point for you to get as detailed about this as possible.
I disagree, dude. I disagree with it. I love a slow build like this.
But it's not good. A slow build because we know what's happening. Like what I'm saying is he was as detailed as possible and then said, if Cody accepts, we'll see you next week on SmackDown. What do you mean if Cody accepts?
Well, dude, that's why I consider it a slow build because they're really pacing it well. I guess things have been laid out for sure, but I like the fact that Cody and Seth were on Raw this past week. They were cutting a promo and the whole what was it? Diarrhea Dwayne is the new moniker. And I will say I think it's just adding layers to the story, and I think adding layers to this story, I think, is good for the business. I know we know what's gonna happen, but I think adding more layers gives this whole story.
Here's where they could have added layers to this. The Rock could have put out the tag team challenge, and then said, Cody, if you accept, we'll talk next week. And then this upcoming week on SmackDown, when Cody arrives, is when they could have went over the details of, okay, I will accept if. Bloodline is banned from ringside.
Here's the thing, though.
That kind of thing.
They played it right, though. They played it right because Cody Rhodes essentially said, "Hey, Seth, I'm giving you an out here." So that's like another layer of the story. Like, hey, Drew's the a badass. He's on a roll. He's the only guy that's pinned me besides Roman Reigns, which is what Cody Rhodes is saying. So they're building it up where it's like Cody's like, Seth, I get it. You got a guy coming up that's pretty badass. He's on a tear right now. I think everybody would agree Drew McIntyre was the right choice for WrestleMania. So I feel like they had to add that layer to it, and it was like, okay, and then he says, and then Seth comes back and says, no, we're pretty much we're in. We're doing this together. And then they're gonna, like, yes, we know it's happening. We know the answer is gonna be yes, but we're going to see it, with both sets of tag teams in the ring together. I think that makes it better. So making the decision.
No, I agree. It's one of those ones where it just seemed like what The Rock literally said was like verbatim. Like it didn't. You should have just had Cody come out right then and there, like on that night. Like it's kind of just like a waste of time to be like, do you think Cody is going to? Like on SmackDown, they're going to advertise SmackDown. They're going to say, does Cody accept the match that's already been printed on the cover of the programs and is already on a billboard in Philadelphia and is already on this commercial and is already pretty much promoted in every WWE promotional material for this event? Do you think he says yes? Like, of course he says yes. It's similar to like when Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley coming at Elimination Chamber and Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley were like, we're going to face at WrestleMania, and then Corey Graves had to quickly say, or it was Pat McAfee, I think, said like, or Nia Jax could win the title. Like he had to like save it at the last minute because it's just such a foregone conclusion.
Well, dude, here's the thing though. As wrestling fans, a lot of these things as fans, as we like ourselves smarks, because we're smart marks is what we are. That's what I think that's what we consider ourselves. I think our loyal audience and all of our friends would say that as well. But I think the point is, I think what's happening is we obviously know what's going to happen, but as wrestling fans, I talk to a lot of different wrestling fans. What they like about it is Yes, we know it's going to happen, but we want to see the interactions between the two when it officially gets done, because let's see what kind of shenanigans happen on SmackDown. That's what it's more about. I get what you're saying, though, where they're going to probably
I mean,
propose
it
it
is
on.
done. It is done. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
well, yeah, we know it's done, but I mean, like the graphic will probably say, "What does Cody say?" We all know what Cody and Seth are going to say, but it's just more about the shenanigans that are going to happen
yes.
after the decision's made.
So a match that we don't necessarily know for sure, you know, I mean, they haven't printed this one up yet, but Gunther obviously is going to find out his challenger for the IC title. Any predictions, any, wants when it comes to that gauntlet match on Raw this upcoming Monday?
Yes, wants and needs, and I think the decision is going to be Chad Gable. I think it's finally time for Chad Gable to get the push that he needs to find. He deserves it. I know that the fans do you deserve it, the whole thing like that. We've been there. We've been to live crowds and we've done that kind of stuff. So he deserves it. I think they're building it up really well. I think it's Chad Gable's time. Former Olympian. He's put on some bangers with Gunther before. So for me, I feel like that is the number one choice. But on the other side of it, if it isn't Chad Gable, the only other choice possible at this point is Sami Zayn, because Sami Zayn needs a championship, I think, as well. So to me, it's Chad Gable's my first choice, and that's the guy that I want to see the most. But if they do go Sami Zayn, I'm not upset with it, because both Chad Gable and Sami Zayn match up very well with Gunther, and they have proven to put on some great matches over the years. So I feel like either way, we're going to be in for a treat.
So finally, and we finally got our inductions, or first induction to the Hall of Fame, and then boom, before we can even get one induction, they pull out two inductions, like they're trying to catch up for lost time. So we got Paul Heyman, he's officially going to get inducted. That seemed to be a foregone because it's in Philadelphia, and that is something that he's synonymous with. But one thing you have to, and this just shows our age and shows how time flies by, but Paul Heyman has been a manager longer than he was ever in ECW, whether it was the owner. If you put his WCW and his ECW time together, he's been a manager for like Brock Lesnar longer than that period of time, which is crazy to think. So when people say, it's Philadelphia, he's going to be, in Philadelphia because ECW, but he's been, like I said, a manager, which I feel like is like what he's kind of being portrayed at as he goes into the Hall of Fame, more so than the other things. Maybe it's just because that's what he currently is. But he was the current Paul Heyman more than he was the Philadelphia Paul Heyman. But quick question. Bull Nakano, Paul Heyman, they're both getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Every single year when somebody gets inducted, they always make a T-shirt for the Hall of Fame. Now, if you're a wrestling fan, I get they're going to make T-shirts for anything, but if you're a wrestling fan, let's say The Undertaker, for example, or even this Bull Nakano, because she's got a pretty cool shirt they just created on WWE Shop. Yeah. Do you want the shirt that's the Bull Nakano Hall of Fame shirt that's specific to her getting inducted with the Hall of Fame logo all over and like her accomplishments on the back? Or do you want just a traditional shirt in which would have been like the shirt that they would have been known for their time? Like if you wanted a Hulk Hogan shirt, would you get the Hulkamania shirt or the Hulk Hogan shirt that you saw in the 90s, maybe a reproduction of it that's very symbolic? Or would you get the Hulk Hogan shirt with like all his accolades on the back and then says Hall of Fame, induction, 2000, whatever?
I think for me, as a wrestling fan, I would like to get the vintage shirts of the time and of the era where they were in the ring as a competitor. So, like, for me, like, and here's the other thing, too. A fun fact, like, Bull Nakano, I mean, I will tell you this. I was reading up on her today because I honestly did not know. I didn't know what Bull did, and, I knew she wrestled, Lunger Blaze. I know she did WCW as well. I didn't get exposed to her very much because so I'm looking at her history here. She retired as I became a fan. So I had to go back and watch some stuff. And here's the thing that's cool about her. Bull Nakano, she was also a professional golfer. So like that was kind of cool. I found that in a little tidbit. She was also a pro golfer. So obviously she's a great athlete. And you know what? A lot of these women that are in the business today can think a trailblazer like her. And I'm glad she's getting in. Doing my due diligence and my research. I'm very happy for her, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to go because she doesn't speak English very well, if my understanding is correct. I believe I know she speaks Japanese, obviously, but I'm wondering how they're going to do that. Is it going to be one of the quick Hall of Fame ceremonies like we've seen before?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a total class of probably 4 people in this Hall of Fame. It's gonna be post SmackDown. It's gonna be from 10 to midnight. It's not gonna be the very lengthy,
I got one for you
show by
too.
itself.
I got one more name that I think is going to be inducted. I think that I think Haku. I think Haku is going to be the next name. I'm putting it out there right now. I think that's the next name.
One name that I would love to see inducted, and I want to, and again, I'm very big on people getting inducted while they are alive, especially if they're a big headlining name. It really stinks when the headliner is not alive
Yeah.
because that's the whole point, right? You don't want to go to any Hall of Fame ceremony and see a player that you recognized, and then it's like their sister or their aunt or their wife or something like that, right? You want to see them. That's the point. You want to hear, like the Undertaker, right? We needed the Undertaker to talk. We didn't want Undertaker's daughter to talk about the Undertaker because she's clearly not going to go on for 30 minutes like the Undertaker. She doesn't have as many stories. She doesn't have as much detail. It's going to be shorter, like we saw with Vader. Unfortunately, Vader could have headlined a class, would have been probably very interesting. Instead, we got his family members, and it was kind of a more shortened thing. But one person who's still alive, and he was actually at AEW Revolution this past weekend, I want to see inducted. Headline though, so I don't want him necessarily here because he's not going to be headlining. Is Lex Luger?
Yes, that's the name I was thinking too. When you're speaking speaking that, I'm thinking the Lex Express, baby. Yeah, I think he gets in next year. I feel like they're going to save him for next year. And by my understanding is, I know obviously he's he's not very mobile anymore. I know he's in the wheelchair, but otherwise it seems like he's in good spirits, good health. Otherwise, obviously besides the mobility situation, but I saw a picture of him with Sting over the weekend. All things considered, he looks great. He looks happy. And by the way, if you don't follow him on social media, he's a great follow. He's very inspirational. He has a great outlook on life right now. And I feel like if you need some inspiration, you're down in some way, shape, or form. Lex Luger, he's a guaranteed great follow. He'll give you some inspiration and some great words. I'm rooting for him. I really want him in. I think to your point, I think they should wait till next year because I agree with you 100%. He needs to be the headliner. I think the Lex Express, he needs to be the headliner, no question.